You made it to level 2, deeper questions leading to deeper answers. I'm Tomas Garza, and I'm here to help you decide to transform. I'll be setting the pace for the process to support your unfolding. Learn and commit to a practice that brings simplicity and then awareness of what is ready to be released. Join me now and allow the experience of a deeper sense of love. Hello, welcome to Decide to Transform. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and joining me again for a wonderful, wonderful subject is Reverend Carrie-Ann from Alberta. Now, Carrie-Ann is the founder of White Light Metaphysical Center. She is a spiritual counselor and certified angel guide who specializes in helping people trust their intuition and connect to their non-physical guides and the non-physical self, the non-physical elements of this world. This is her specialty, and she joins us again here today on Decide to Transform. Carrie-Ann, welcome back.
Hello. It's great to be here.
This is fun, and I'm really looking forward to this because this is a subject that a lot of people are curious about. So why don't we jump right into how you work with and help people? How do you help people connect to non-physical guides?
I love that question. It's so amazing. Honestly, one of there obviously there's a lot to it, but the way I start is just by getting them to tell me all of their thoughts and their feelings, what challenges they're coming up with, just to sort of get those juices flowing and sort of where do they see themselves. So, so many of us say, so how are you doing? And you say, good. And you're like, what does that mean? So I always ask them, what does good look like to you today? Right? So I get them to start thinking deeper. And then there's a couple of different processes. There's prayers, there's breathing meditations, but it's really just getting them to connect to their inner voice without even realize that that's what they're doing. Because as they loosen up and they start to think, you can tell whether when I'm looking at them on video, I can tell whether they're thinking with their mind or whether it's their heart. You can really I can pick up a lot of cues as to how they're receiving the information, even if they don't know that they're receiving information. So the very first thing I do is sort of figure out where they're coming from, if that makes sense.
Well, it does make sense to me, but let's delve a little bit deeper into this, yeah? Because how frequent is it that someone has difficulty connecting to this inner voice?
Well, first they have to trust themselves. So if there's any doubt or we've talked about collapsed energy or negative energy thoughts, anytime that you're having those negative feelings in your life, there's actually that illusion of separation. There's a disconnect between higher self or higher wisdom and your ego. So in this day and age, a lot of us are not really connected. There's a lot of people that aren't really connected to that innate wisdom within themselves, the innate wisdom around them. So if they start off the conversation in a victim mindset or a complaining mindset or oh, I wish this didn't happen to me, or I wish this could happen to me, they're typically disconnected from their intuition.
Okay. Well, I was very interested in something you said just a moment ago, is you help people to make this connection, connect to their intuition without realizing that that's what they're doing. So what does that look like?
I get them to talk about the good things in their life. Like I ask them, what is going well for you? Obviously, there are some techniques that I share with them. Like it's like bring your awareness to your heart center, imagine an energy cord going up to the highest angelic realms. But that's when they're ready to really start trusting their intuition. All they know is their life isn't feeling good. They're trying to figure things out. So when people come to me and they're on their spiritual journey or they're just beginning their spiritual journey, they're looking for guidance they're looking for support. They're trying to figure things out. And they've kind of forgotten, their soul has forgotten that they are actually connected. So I weave that into the conversation about how are you feeling? What are your emotions? What voices are you hearing? I know it sounds kind of a little woo-woo, but I teach them different angels that they can connect with, different emotions to become aware of. There's practicing what I call soul intending, is really focusing on what have you attracted into your life, and then you think about what your intentions are, what else do you want to pull into your life, and then what is your next best step, or what is that inspired action that you want to take. Some of us have heard about inspired action through Abraham. Seth talks about it a lot as well, two of my non-physical guides. But it's really getting them to become aware of their emotional space. They're getting them to be aware of that self-talk. Mm-hmm. To begin with.
Well, it's really critically important, and everyone listening to this podcast is totally into what society at large would consider woo-woo or out there.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and you know what? I'm all about that. So we can talk about it if we want to.
Perfect.
There we go.
Well, as you were doing the introduction, I did I have angel blessing cards. And the messages and the blessings that were received for this conversation were healing, enlightenment, and serenity. So to me, that means this conversation, the intention, we're dedicating this to all, to heal in all places at all times, which will allow then enlightenment, which is quite interesting because that's kind of enlightened world. So it's just to bring up some more enlightenment, and then with that knowledge, bring a sense of serenity or a sense of peace, a sense of calm into one's life. So
okay, yeah. Well, and focusing on what is going well and getting into that mindset is something that's very, very important. So you mentioned that you have various techniques when you work with people. What have they said, or how do you know that they're making that connection?
Right. Well, I always teach them what we call a heart link, angelic heart link, and it's really just getting them to bring their awareness to their heart center, and then imagine projecting a golden energy cord or a white cord, whatever cord feels right to them. But I guide them up through their throat, their third eye, crown chakra, and then I use the words into the highest angelic realm, or the highest divinity that you can reach for.
Okay.
And at that point, I can tell that they're connected, because they either smile or a tear forms, because the idea of reaching for something more, reaching for the highest level of divinity or the highest level of the angelic realm that they can reach at this time, brings them that sense of inner confidence and strength. And it speaks to their soul as well, that they have that ability. And then I ask them to send the feelings of love, of gratitude, of, appreciation, just send that energy of love up the cord to that angel. And then they come back and they receive it 10 times, 100 times greater than what they received. And that really puts them, and I'd let them practice a little bit of spiritual selfishness as well, where they're just receiving. And that's when I can tell that they're into that space now. They're into the receiving and practicing that level of spiritual selfishness. Okay. But the other thing, if they're really wanting to just talk about angels or talk about connecting with their intuition, see, most of the time my clients don't even realize that this is what I'm doing for them, which is why I'm being a little vague in some of the questions, because I'm really teaching them how to be self-empowered, how to be more aware of their thoughts and their feelings. And the deeper we go into those conversations, the the more fluid their thoughts become. They're not reaching for ideas or thoughts. I just know that they are.
Sure.
But if they're looking for those techniques, then I definitely offer these different types. There's also 9 healing angels that I can really lead them through. So I teach a course called Meet the Healing Angels. And that's when I can really tell what they're receiving, because I guide them through the process of creating that personal connection with each one of the 9 angels. So at the end of the meditative experience of experiencing an angel, we do a bit of a debrief. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What messages did you receive? What thoughts passed through your minds? All those types of things. And it gives them the confidence knowing that they receive something, right? That they're starting to tap into their intuition. They're starting to trust what they're receiving a little bit more. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Is that?
Yes, this is it's very, very interesting within creating an angelic heart link. And really, this is about helping people become more self-empowered. I mean, I just love that a lot of the time they're not even aware that you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Well, yeah. And when I talk to them about the angels, or when I lead them through the class of the angels, I share with them their healing gifts. But the angels in general are here to help us heal our emotional blockages, to help us just move through what we're dealing with. But there's also messages where, if you need guidance, how do you ask them for that guidance? How do you support? How do they reach for it themselves if it's not through a session through me? So I really teach them about the concept of gratitude and intention, and getting clear on the question that they're asking as well.
I love this. Yeah. Well, and you used the term spiritual selfishness a couple of times a moment ago. Would you say some more about that and why it's important? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very similar to that analogy. You got to put your mask on first before you can help others in an airplane.
Totally.
Spiritual selfishness is there's this belief that we need to help others all the time, and really sometimes to the point where we're sacrificing our own well-being. And yes, we're all here to work for the greater good of all, but we're part of that greater good. So if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not contributing to that greater good for all. So for me personally, that spiritual selfishness is working on yourself first, the one piece that you can make the biggest difference towards the world. Because if you're peace, if you're calm, if you've received that healing, if you've received that enlightenment, that is projected in your aura and out to the others that are impacting you. It's that collateral impact that I use a lot. It's collateral impact, not collateral damage. But spiritual selfishness is really just allowing yourself to receive the energy of the divine, to receive that energy of love, of peace, of joy. It opens you up to feeling that trust again, that spiritual pride, the freedom and faith. It brings in that energy of forgiveness, of safety, of protection. To me, that's what spiritual selfishness is allowing yourself to feel all of those loving, positive aspects of the human world.
Right. This is so important because we see so often that people are not, they don't feel worthy of receiving love, quite frankly.
Right. And when you open yourself up to this angelic wisdom, when you open yourself up to this higher connection, it's just when you're struggling with moving forward, or you're struggling with, there's a sense of withholding in your life, or indecision, or you're feeling a lot of rejection. These are all things, pessimistic thoughts. These are all things that you can ask the angels, your inner self, to help you overcome. And angels, this is part of your listeners will understand that while the angelic realm, this is something, how do I say this? So it's all just one, like there's this huge energy surface that we're all connected to, and we're all part of that energetic frequency. Angels are part of that, but imagine a disco globe, a disco ball.
Yeah.
And it's a big disco ball, but there's different fragments depending on how the light hits. There's different colors. Angels are representative of all of those different aspects of it. So to me, it's so amazing that each one had like pink, blue, red, whatever, in this context, instead of colors, it's emotions, it's gifts, it's support, it's healing that you can draw into. And then the angels' names really help our human mind bring into context that bigger source that's available to us, that source that we're connected to.
Yeah, I love the image of a disco ball. So I think that will really connect with, well, with pretty much everybody. And the colors. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. Well, so, I know that there are a lot of people out there that are curious about this very topic, and so many people have had kind of non-physical experiences. It can take a lot of forms. It might be a download at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, or some kind of energetic experience. And what would you say to people that are having these, but don't know where to turn? They don't know who to talk to about it.
Yeah, well, pick the phone up and talk to me.
Yes.
No, but
yes.
But I get what you're saying. Really, when you're receiving those hits, know that it means that you're ready to elevate to the next level, that your soul is ready to evolve, to expand, and to grow. And it also, to me, it means that you're stepping outside of what we call the human ego. It's allowing yourself to think more than just your personal self.
Yeah.
So when you come to reconciliation or awareness that if you're receiving these guides and you're receiving these hits from the angels, one, that your energetic frequency is clear enough to hear it. And it usually indicates that there's something in that you're ready to start sharing with the world what you know, start stepping up, start contributing to the energetic piece of this world, what we call the collective consciousness. But the other thing is sometimes those downloads come so fast and so frequently. And so I help my clients, and for me personally, I started practicing the art of discernment, and I've also started respectfully demanding that energetic flow be slowed down at night, so my human form can receive the 8 hours of sleep that it needs. So, in business class or in businesses where you're like, okay, that's an item we need to talk about, but we're just going to park it right now. That's how I talk to my own angels, to my own intuition, to my higher self. It's like, okay, this information is coming down, but I'm not ready to receive it. I'm not ready to download it. So get it prepped, put it in the parking lot. And then when I'm ready to receive it, I'll open up my channel and it will come through. Because it's not always practical to have that connection, to be in that place of downloading your connection when you're trying to go through your day-to-day life. So.
Right. Yeah. And so many people have an experience where they'll have something like this happen and then be more or less unable to function the following day in the world because they're integrating this information. And I really like that you've said that, well, you can put it in the parking lot as though you're at a professional seminar. We get things in the parking lot. Will we come to them? Eventually.
Yeah. Or even like iTunes or any other update. Do you want to download only or download and install? So think about it right? I just want the download, park it, and when I'm ready to install it, I'll click that button. So it's really cool. So that's
it is really cool.
Things. Yeah,
it is. And here's a fun question. Why do you suppose this is happening to so many people right now?
Yeah, well, there's been such a shift in consciousness. There's a paradigm shift happening in the world, and people are starting to realize, really understand that we are all interconnected. I teach the Tao as well, so it's the elemental natures. People are starting to really understand that some people believe about the feng shui, where clearing your energy in your space makes a big difference. Full moon energies, being aware of that. Whatever you choose to believe is shifting your energetic frequency. But I just think people are becoming more aware. Like Abraham's messages are available 24/7.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I actually, when I'm listening to Abraham, and Seth is my other non-physical guide. So Abraham and Seth are basically on that same level of frequency. Their message, what higher source, higher wisdom is trying to, universal source is trying to help humanity do, is move faster through the human struggles so that we can evolve our souls, so that we can move through the struggles and start to enjoy life. One of the very first messages that I received from the angels through a channel was, and now I realize this message applies to all, not just me, but it was so impactful when I received it. And it was, you have been struggling so much throughout your human life. And this was about 12 years ago when I received this message.
Okay.
You've been struggling, but your whole purpose here on life is to learn how to love, how to experience joy, how to experience inspiration and connection and abundance and prosperity. So it's time to stop reaching for those lessons that create you to learn what it means to struggle, or to the opposite of all of those emotions. And our souls are really, in this earth carnation, I believe, we are all ready to start experiencing love and prosperity and growth and unconditional, like non-judgment, and just really move into that energy of support and freedom. And I think that's why we're seeing that shift now, is because our souls, we are eternal beings. I believe our souls are eternal. And I know for myself, I've received messages where you've mastered all of these lessons already.
Sure.
You don't need to master those anymore. What you need to do is start enjoying. You're leading edge creators. You can create anything that you want in this world. And it's our time, our soul's time. It's our mission to make the world better and to shift that victim mindset into something bigger than we can imagine. I don't know, some people would say similar to the Celestine prophecy, where we don't need physical form to experience these things. Throughout my studies, I've heard that some people believe that once you transcend, you don't have that personality with you anymore. You're just a soul. Others are like, you just practice unconditional love. You don't have those judgments or those angers available to you anymore. And I like to believe that that's true. But the ones that support us don't know. I've also heard this belief that the angels or the souls or guides, they don't know what's right or wrong. They just know that this is something that's going to support you through it. Right. So for me, I've started asking the angels to help me practice living in a constant state of gratitude, to bring more joy and enlightenment into my life, instead of asking for, how do I make this better? Right. How do I change this?
Right.
Help.
Yeah. There's so many different ways that this is showing up. And it's really interesting because so many people are having these experiences. Now, you mentioned your first experience was 12 years ago, your first message. Were you surprised or taken aback by that?
And this is kind of the really cool thing. My intellect was surprised, but my soul felt at peace. if
Sure.
that makes sense. It was like,
Totally.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my mission or my purpose in this world is to practice being unconditional love and having more than I need, like abundance and prosperity and serenity. And like that's my whole purpose here, is to have more than I need. It was so liberating to hear that message, that I didn't need, my purpose on this earth wasn't to struggle anymore. My purpose on life was to enjoy it. And that was just such a liberating uncovering or awareness.
Okay. Yeah.
But I struggled with it a little bit, but internally I knew that was exactly why I was here. And it was like, oh, I can finally stop struggling. Like it was that I don't need to keep reaching for that struggle anymore, because
Sure.
that's not what I'm, yeah.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a relief. And so many people have had these experiences all of their lives. So when you were young, did you have anything that possibly foreshadowed this or led up to it?
Yeah, I was one of those kids that stared into space quite a bit. And I go to the end of the street or the end of the lane, and I'd sit in the grass and I look at the clouds and stuff. And I also muttered to myself a lot. Like I was talking to myself, or I
Absolutely.
thought I was talking to myself a lot, but I realized now I was, just what when 20 hindsight is 2020, right?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I just like could sort of foresee is like when the buzzing of the lines were going. It's like I don't the those electrical lines that
Hmm.
are above us and pass the energy. I could, whenever I
Sure.
was near them, I could hear the energy flowing through it.
Right.
And I
Right.
said, one day I'm going to figure out where that sound is coming from, or learn more about energy and how that all works. So for 23 years, I actually worked for an electric company.
Oh, okay.
So I learned
Hmm.
the tangible concept of where electricity comes from. But
Interesting.
in this last part, I've learned more about the energy around us and within us.
Hmm.
So I knew that I was going to be studying energy. I just didn't realize to what
Okay.
form I was going to be studying
Yeah.
energy, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, that's very,
Yeah.
very interesting that you had all that experience with an electrical company, figuring out how it takes, well, I mean, how it takes form really in the physical
Mm-hmm.
world and powers everything. And most of us just are happy when the lights are on, or we take it for granted and we only
Yeah.
recognize it when they go out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So, and the I lived in Manitoba, so we
Okay.
used water to form electricity, the energy
Sure.
of water
Okay.
from the dams. And as I've learned now, water is one of the elements of the Tao.
Hmm.
And when we're collapsed and we're not using the energy of water properly, we're experiencing a lot of indecision.
Okay. Right.
A lot
Right.
of,
Right.
but when we're seeing water or energy from the more expansive view, we're very decisive. We know exactly what we need to do. We're not struggling to find the answer.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of when people start to become, you ask, how do I know that they're tapping intuition?
Yeah.
Decisiveness comes into play,
Okay.
certainty comes into play as
Yes.
well. So they start to become more trusting and more generous, and their personality is just a little more positive. It's not as pessimistic as it used
Hmm.
to be.
Sure.
So
Yes. Well, and this for then 12 years ago, you had your first message, and you intellectually weren't sure, but your soul knew
mhm.
100%. So since then you've mentioned that you have a couple of non-physical guides, Seth being one and Abraham the other. Yes. So would you say some more for those that aren't maybe familiar with Abraham and Seth about who these guides are and how they help
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, they're from that same frequency, and they're the non-physical guides that are really helping humanity overcome those emotional blockages that are
Hmm.
preventing us from living our biggest lives. And so when I'm listening to Abraham or I'm receiving messages from Seth, it's a reminder that this is stuff I already know. It's just a way of them reminding us of what we've learned in our past lifetimes.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's also providing us with that, because I want to believe that the source of, like, it's not just messages from these, in what we're labeling them as Abraham or Seth.
Right.
They're just elements of the universal source.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
that level, that frequency, is all about raising humanity's awareness to what their potential is and what they're possible of. So for me, knowing that those are the teachings that are really coming into my world, and those are the ones that I wouldn't say I'm channeling them yet.
Okay.
But one of my mentors, she channels Seth. Mm-hmm. So I've been able to talk with him through her. So it's full on, as far as I'm concerned, face to face with Seth. And he's like, eventually, if you do the work and you start to dig deeper and you start to write more, and this is what I want you to write about, mm-hmm. then I'll be able to share with you more about what humanity needs to hear to move forward.
All right.
But I also want to share that these non-physical guides and these angels, as much as they're here to remind us of what we already learned or what we need to remember to elevate humanity at the next level, mm-hmm. the way we look at them in awe, they look at us in awe the same way.
Interesting.
Because we're the ones having those life experiences. They're up in the universal source and they're like, okay, we're observing, we're watching, we're learning from you guys. So the more lifetimes that we have, the more we're reminding them about all of the positive, good lives and bad lives, but they want to see what it's like to live a fully positive life. And they're encouraging humanity to start living that way. So when we do come back, we're just in a much more positive space, and there's not all these struggles all mm-hmm. the time.
Yeah. Well, and that's certainly something that characterizes life in the world, is like a yo-yo. You're feeling great, you're feeling not great.
Those ebbs and flows.
Yes, without a doubt. Now, you mentioned a moment ago that you have a directive of sorts to write. So are you able to share at this point what you are to write about?
Yeah, in general, I'm still digging deeper into it.
Okay.
But yes, absolutely. Emotional divination is finding that space within yourself so that you really have the awareness of what you're feeling. Like, do you feel that you're safe and protected? Do you feel powerlessness? Are you on the love aspect of the emotions, contentment, satisfied love, or are you feeling more disconnected and unresponsive to the world around you? Those types of things. But it's all about putting that in context, looking at the bigger picture, recognizing that it's bigger than ourselves. And one of the lessons that I'm here to learn is really not to sweat the small stuff. So I have a little bit of germaphobes or a pre-obsession with germs. And so I said, why am I so obsessed, or why am I so focused in on this when I'm in my collapsed energy? And what he said is, that's one of the last lessons you need to learn in this lifetime, so that you can evolve and take the next step. Gotcha. And he says, to do that, you need to writing about putting things in context. So it's, where do you want to expend your energy? Where do you want to shift your focus? Where do you want to, because you're spending so much time wasting thinking about all of these things that could potentially harm you, that you're actually draining your energy and not redirecting it to the goodness and all of the good around you. So my directive is to really help people understand that context and mesh it with that emotional divination and connect it with their thoughts and their feelings and who they're meant to be in this world, and
Okay.
bringing it all together, how they're
Yeah.
meant to be. Because, and I thank you for asking that, because there is a difference. A lot of us still think we need to be doing stuff, doing. But really, we're here to be. We're here to be just the beingness of it all. So part of that is just being aware of how you're showing up in the world. How are you contributing to the collective consciousness? How are you bringing joy into your own life, into other lives? How are you taking that action out of inspiration instead of desperation? Are you operating from an abundant mindset instead of a reactive mindset or a victim mindset? Are you experiencing financial serenity or financial distress? Those types of putting all of that into context is really what I'm helping my clients do. And I'm supposed to help humanity figure out.
I love it. Yeah.
Is that too bold of me to ask to say?
Oh no, there's nothing really that's too bold or too audacious when we're talking about truth.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And what I just said, that's a little bit of ego coming in. It's like, should I be saying this out loud already, or should I be living it a little bit more before I talk about it? But
both.
It's time to talk about it. It's time to talk about it. People need to hear this information, and it's part of our healing process as individuals, as humanity as a whole.
It is. I couldn't agree more with that. That's exactly why we're here. That's exactly why this podcast is going on right now. That's exactly why you, the listeners, are listening to it. And we do thank you for that.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Totally. Yes. So, with emotional divination, it's awareness then of one's own feelings. For people that aren't familiar with that term, what else is involved with that?
Well, first you have to make the decision to choose to feel something different than what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, you do.
It is choice. We, in every moment and every day, and I think I talked a little bit about this in the other show that we did, the other conversation that we had, is every day we have a choice. We have choices. But we also have to choose to feel better instead of worse. So the very first step in emotional divination is choice. You have to choose to feel better. You have to say, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I want something different than what I'm feeling. That's the first step of emotional definition, saying enough's enough. I don't want to feel this way. I don't feel good enough. I'm tired of living this way. I don't want to have this life anymore. It's that choice, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And what I want to clarify, when I say I don't want this life anymore, that doesn't mean I want to end my life. I want to be gone. It just means I want to have a different experience, a different reality than the one I'm currently experiencing.
Totally.
Yeah. I want to live life. I just don't want to live it this way anymore.
Right. Exactly.
I want to live in a more happy way. So that's the first thing is choice. Yeah. You have to make the decision that you want something other than what you're currently experiencing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that really is the foundation of all of this. So, Carrie-Ann, you've got so much to offer people in terms of accessing their intuition and living this more peaceful, more abundant, and purposeful life. That's the word that comes to my mind right away, is purposeful. So if someone were to want to work with you further, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
They can go to my website, which is whitelightmetaphysical.com. So white light, as you traditionally know how to spell them, with the GHT, not ITE, and metaphysical, the word metaphysical.com. And then at the top right-hand corner of the button of the page, you'll see a button that says find your best path, or find your journey, or start your journey. And that's the best place to start, is to say, yes, I want to find my path. I want to find something different. I'm ready to start my journey. That's a choice that you're making, to click on that button.
Yes.
And then submit, and then book a time with me to start discovering what this next best path is for you, that next choice. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love the emphasis on choice and decision. And again, for the listeners, it's whitelightmetaphysical.com. And we've made reference to another show here a couple of times. And this is a companion show. We're releasing them right here today at the same time. And in the first show, we talked about the really wonderful teaching of soul path. So you'll want to listen to not just one, but both of these. And again, for any of this information or working with Carrie-Ann directly, it's whitelightmetaphysical.com. So I really want to thank you for joining me again here today. And this has been so educational for me. I've learned a great deal about what's involved in all of this and your own personal experience, which I know people were real curious about because everybody's got lots of different experiences here. So, yeah, before we wrap up, what else would you like to say to folks that might be curious about all of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a few things. There's always, I could talk about this forever.
Well, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. But one of the things is I talked about the angelic heart link, but there's also human heart links.
Okay.
So we can send our energy to other humans, to other people.
Right.
And with the intention, and I do this in one of the healing circles where we connect to the world angel grid, where we actually send the intention of connecting to every single human being in the world, and we get that angelic heart link going, and then we send it out to all, so that every single being in all four corners of the world, of the universe, can receive that angelic energy, and we all have the ability to do that. And
Gotcha.
I guide them through that session. But the other thing is just when you've got the power, and you can not just ask the angels, and this is so important, not just ask the angels or your non-physical guides. I'm shying away from the word angels and more non-physical guides, because there's obviously the 9 angels that really help us anchor and start to develop that relationship with the divine, with the angelic wisdom. But there's ascended masters, there's light keepers, there's guides, there's ancestors. There's so many different ways or words that we can use. And that's why I choose the word non-physical guide rather than connecting to their angels or connecting to source or whatever.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's super important to understand. And just know that you don't have to ask for support. Sometimes you just need to thank them. So in one of my, in my personal journey in the morning, I would say invite them to join their energy with mine, so that I could clear all these energetic blockages that I was having, and really focus in on sharing my creative expression, or, discovering that life is bigger than just myself. All of these different ways, helping me disconnect or clear my illusion of separation from the divine. So in the morning, I would ask for that support, but in the evening, I would thank them for giving me that support.
Yeah,
so that puts me into a state of gratitude as well, right? So
beautiful.
Because when we're always asking, it puts us in that sense of, and we've talked about law of attraction, the more you're reaching for something, it indicates that you have a lack of it, right? So if we're always asking for more support, for more protection, for more safety, for more guidance, it's subconsciously sending the message that we don't have that in our life already. So we really need to be aware of what we've already attracted into our life, what we've already brought into our lives, what we already have good in our lives. And then ask for additional support. That to me is the way that you do it. So
I love it.
And my evening, the way I see it, is the nighttime is the start of connecting. And in the morning, that's when you sort of start the day from a clean and clear space, because you've been sleeping in that energy of gratitude. And you're like, okay, what are we going to do today? And you ask from that inspired, in that clean and clear place before all of the other stuff starts to happen throughout the day.
Yeah, I love that. And we really have come full circle to something that we mentioned earlier in the show, and that's helping people to connect to their intuition without their knowing that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And here we are. And so for those of you that would like to work with Carrie-Ann more directly, again, whitelightmetaphysical.com is her website. And well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me again today.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity again.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you.
absolutely. It's always so much fun, guys. Well, Carrie-Ann and I have known each other for a little while, and well, we're friends outside of here. So she's going to probably tease me in just a moment when we get done with this broadcast. But I want to thank all of you for tuning in. This has been Decide to Transform with Reverend Carrie-Ann Barron, and again, whitelightmetaphysical.com is her website to connect with her and find out how you all might be able to work with her further and connect to your own intuition, your own non-physical guides for a more purposeful life. So thank you for joining us here today.